This isn't just another account from a 72-year-old woman. This is the shocking story of Laura Fletcher, the same woman who gave her daughter Brooke a life where nothing was ever missing, only to be cast out of her own home by that very daughter to make room for her wealthy mother-in-law. In the heart of Queens, New York, with old radios crackling Sinatra and walls bearing witness to 4 decades of family memories, Laura watched her photos disappear and her rugs get rolled up. She swallowed her pride, determined not to lose her family, even as everything changed around her. But nobody knew, not even Brooke, that the deed to that spacious house had always been in Laura's name, bought with years of hard work. So get ready, because the twist in this story will grip you until the last second. Prepare to see humiliation turn into strength, silence into justice, and a mother's love tested like never before. If this chapter has already touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments which city you're watching from, so your voice becomes part of this story. Now we're all ears. Ms. Laura, whenever you're ready, please begin.
Have you ever felt the ground vanish beneath your feet, right inside your own home? I have, and it wasn't some passing jolt, but an upheaval that stretched on for months. Let me tell you the story of a woman who, at 72, discovered that the greatest threat to her dignity shared her own blood and her smile. This isn't a tale of heroes and villains, but of choices, boundaries, and the bitter taste love takes on when power gets mixed in. I want to share not just what I lost, but most of all, what I gained when I decided, with my gray hair, that my voice still deserved to be heard. My name is Laura Fletcher. I'm 72 now, but this story started when I was 65. I was born in a modest home in Queens, a neighborhood where the rumble of subways kept better time than any clock. My dad worked for the Postal Service, and my mom did seamstress work from home, both determined to send my only brother, Andrew, to college, something they'd never had the chance to do. Me? I was expected to make do with a secretarial course. A woman gets married and the man takes care of the bills, my father used to say between sips of strong black coffee on Sunday mornings. I grew up in a world where girls' dreams were fenced in tight, like chain link around a backyard. I learned to stitch, cook, and play the piano. That last one, a luxury my mother fought tooth and nail to keep, despite my father's complaints. A pianist doesn't put food on the table, he'd grumble. Little did he know those yellowed. Ivory keys would become my anchor decades later on stormy days. I married at 22 to Anthony, a banker with a broad grin and warm hands who promised a life better than my parents ever had. And in the beginning, that's what we had. We moved into a small house in Astoria, had our daughter Brooke, and I committed myself to being the best mother and wife I could be. The scent of orange pound cake baking on Sundays filled the whole house, while an old AM radio tuned to Sinatra set the mood for our afternoons. Ours was a small world, but I filled it with love and care. The first crack in my marriage came when I asked to go back to school after Brooke turned 10. Why? Is there something missing at home? Anthony asked, his face taking on that look that told me the conversation was over before it began. Even so, I started selling homemade tamales on our front porch, hiding the cash in an old cookie tin at the back of a kitchen cabinet. With that money, I paid for Brooke's English courses and quietly saved for the house when the owner put it up for sale. Anthony never realized, but the deed went in my name, thanks to a notary who caught my nervous glance when I said my husband handled our finances. It was an act of quiet rebellion, the only one I'd allow myself for many years. When Brooke turned 18, Anthony left, not for the cemetery, but by choice. "You never understood me, Laura. You never did," were his last words before he packed up and moved in with a co-worker from the bank who was 20 years younger. I was left with a mortgage to pay, a daughter to raise, and a piano that sounded more and more out of tune, just like my life. Those were tight years, counting every dollar, but I managed. I helped my daughter earn her business degree, watched her marry Ryan, an ambitious guy from Wall Street, and saw, with pride and a bit of disbelief, as she became a luxury lifestyle influencer. From tamale seller's daughter to a businesswoman with millions of followers, a story she preferred to leave out of her well-polished videos. And then, between the scent of orange cake and the crackle of My Way on the radio, life shifted again. Brooke swung open the rusty green gate, the one I worked so hard to keep standing, and with a voice as cold as polished marble, told me her mother-in-law would be moving into our house. It wasn't a request, it was a decree, and as she spoke, the weight of that word, "our," echoed like a warning bell. The January that followed brought more than cold. It brought changes that cut like shards of glass. Brooke arrived on a chilly, gray morning with a moving truck and 3 men in white uniforms. I watched from the window as they systematically diplomatically took my pictures off the walls, rolled up my faded oriental rugs, and packed my family photo albums into unlabeled boxes. "We're updating the decor, Mom. The designer said your style is just too vintage," Brooke explained, her eyes glued to her phone, answering comments from followers as my life's memories were boxed up and stacked away. Ryan, my son-in-law, oversaw the operation like it was a hostile takeover on Wall Street. Tall, always in a flawless suit, even with the winter chill, he wore the same cologne that Brooke liked to feature in her unboxing videos. "Ms. Fletcher, we think it'll be best for you to stay in the back room. It has a private bathroom, and you'll have more peace and quiet, out of the way from the social area," he said with that practiced smile that never quite met his eyes. I swallowed the protest rising in my throat. Beneath all the polite concern, I knew exactly what was happening. I was being tucked away like some old piece of furniture that didn't fit the new decor. I went to the little musty-smelling room, taking with me only a few clothes, my radio, and a box of photographs I managed to save from the packing. As I closed the faded curtains of that damp little room, I heard my own breathing grow heavier than ever before. A painful thought crossed my mind. If love means protection, why did protecting mean shrinking myself to nothing this time? Brooke was my daughter, my own flesh and blood, the girl I sold homemade tamales for so I could pay. For her English classes, how did we end up here? The following Sunday, Amelia, Brooke's mother-in-law, arrived, dragging 3 genuine leather suitcases and promptly moving into what used to be Brooke's old bedroom. The room had been completely revamped, imported wallpaper, a brand new king-size bed. From the kitchen, where I made a pot of coffee nobody had asked for, I listened to laughter and exclamations praising the amazing transformation of the space. "It's for my channel, Mom. Makeover at Grandma's. Giving a classic its modern spark. Over 15,000 people have signed up to watch the live stream," Brooke explained when she caught me quietly watching the commotion. That night, alone in the small back room, I tried to play a few notes on the cheap electronic keyboard that had replaced my piano, now covered with a sheet in storage. But its plastic sound only deepened my sense of loss. It wasn't just my house being taken from me. It was my identity, my story, my dignity. The final blow landed the next morning when Ryan handed me a piece of paper. "It's just a formality, Ms. Fletcher. Just an agreement so we can use the house for recordings and social media content." The paper, riddled with legal jargon, was really a transfer of property rights. My son-in-law, a true shark, was trying to take legally what he'd already claimed in practice. With a trembling hand, I signed, but not before quietly snapping a photo of the document with the old cell phone Brooke had given me for emergencies. February burned hot with my silent indignation. My body, once the undisputed owner of those rooms, now slipped from hallway to hallway like an unwelcome guest. After that forced signature, Ryan's kindness grew suspiciously performative. His voice boomed. "Ms. Fletcher, do you need anything?" when there were guests, then dropped to a whisper. "Don't touch that vase," when we were alone. March brought rain and new humiliations. Brooke canceled our joint credit card for safety after I bought some embroidery supplies she deemed unnecessary, the very card she'd insisted I accept 3 months earlier. "It's just for emergencies, Mom, not for little extras," she explained, unwrapping her 5th designer handbag of the month. Loneliness became a heavy cloak. My old routine, filled with visits from former piano students and gatherings with church ladies, had shrunk to emptiness in the tiny back room. "Best to let us know before you have visitors, Miss Fletcher. We have a shooting schedule," Amelia reminded me, her delicate smile hiding razor-sharp claws. One gray Thursday, I returned from the bakery and found the door locked, a shiny new, intimidating lock now barred me from my own house. There I stood, bags of bread and provolone cheese in my hands, feeling the cold metal deadbolt under my fingers. When Ryan finally appeared, he spoke as if soothing a child. "It's for safety, Miss Fletcher. The house has some valuable things now. You'll have your own key, eventually." I started eating alone. Mealtime, which used to be family communion, turned into formal affairs where I barely recognized the food. Quinoa, avocado, and other foods Brooke called clean had replaced the rice and beans, sautéed collard greens, and steak with onions that had sustained our family for decades. Night, the back room amplified every sound in the house. I could hear laughter from the living room, the clinking of wine glasses, carefully curated music chosen for Brooke's streaming videos. It was an ongoing auditory torture, a reminder of my new place, or lack thereof. "We've changed your social security payments to a joint account for convenience," Ryan informed me over breakfast, as casually as commenting on the weather. My retirement, earned after years of teaching music music at public schools now had to pass through his hands before it reached mine. "It'll help you manage your finances better," he explained, entering numbers into a sleek spreadsheet. Physical isolation quickly turned into a psychological cage. When I tried to call my old friend Marlene, I found the landline was dead. "We switched to all-cell plans. It's more modern," Brooke explained a few days later, handing me a basic phone with oversized buttons and just 5 contacts pre-programmed. On. Sleepless nights, the smell of mildew in my tiny room, mixed with the faint scent of expensive perfumes and imported cleaning supplies flowing through the house. I'd hug my old pillow, the only thing left with my own scent, and remember the aroma of orange pound cake that once filled this house. I could close my eyes and feel the rough texture of the baking pan, the warmth of the gas oven, the hiss of the AM radio. These sensory memories kept me whole as the world around me tried to pull me apart. In my recipe notebook, now stashed under the mattress like contraband, I wrote little notes between instructions for cheese puffs and bechamel sauce. Loneliness tastes like medicine swallowed without water. It's hard to get down, and it leaves a bitterness in your mouth that nothing can wash away. My salvation came on a muggy Saturday in April, wrapped in the smell of freshly baked bread, hiding out at Sunnyside Bakery, a little act of rebellion against my new home diet. I was savoring a latte when a familiar voice called my name. Ruth, my old neighbor, approached me, her broad grin lighting up the wrinkles on her kind face. "Laura, long time no see. You disappeared from church. I thought you'd gone out of town," she said, pulling out a chair without waiting for an invitation, the way true friends do. Ruth's hug brought back the lavender scent she always wore, stirring up memories of lazy afternoons playing dominoes and sharing secrets over lemonade. I told her, in a low voice, everything that had happened while she squeezed my wrinkled hand between her own. "That's outrageous. That house is yours. You bought it with your tamale money. Remember? You even told me the day you got the deed," Ruth said, indignant. Her words lit a long-forgotten spark inside me. The deed? How could I have forgotten? In the chaos of moving, that document had ended up in an old shoebox, tucked away with birth certificates and other important papers Brooke had dismissed as junk and sent to an outside storage unit they rented. My nephew Jason's a notary. Let's talk to him right now, Ruth decided, already flagging down the waiter for the check. Jason welcomed us into his small office on the second floor of an old commercial building in Queens. He was young, but his eyes were quick and his speech measured, and I felt a respect from him that I hadn't known for months. "Miss Fletcher, if the deed is in your name, then any document you signed later under pressure won't hold up in court. The priority now is to find that deed," he explained, pushing his thick-rimmed glasses up the bridge of his nose. I went home with a plan, and for the first time in weeks, hope thumping in my chest. That night, while everyone slept, I slipped quietly into the storage room. Surrounded by stacked boxes, I found my old things. My hand shook as I finally touched the long-forgotten shoebox, an old Converse box, brand now more nostalgia than store shelf. There it was, a time-worn manila envelope holding the paid-off deed from 1994, with my name listed as the sole owner. "Keep this somewhere safe and don't mention it to anyone for now," Jason advised a few days later, after confirming the document's validity. "Let's get everything ready legally before we confront them." I asked him to keep this absolutely confidential. I didn't want tabloid headlines or social media drama. I just wanted my dignity back, going to bed. In the little back room that night was different. The mold was still there. The walls were the same, but something inside me had shifted. The weight of injustice felt lighter now that it was shared. The next week, Ruth introduced me to her friends at the Needlepoint Group, simple women with skilled hands and generous hearts. They welcomed me without questions or judgments. Among rows of colored threads, I found a weekly refuge where I could just be Laura, not Brooke's mom, or that lady in the back room. Carmen, the oldest member at 82, squeezed my shoulder with her knobby hand and whispered, "No one can take away what you truly are, dear." Don't forget that. That afternoon, as we stitched and swapped stories, sunlight spilled through the window of the local community center, warming my hands as I embroidered colored flowers onto crisp white fabric. Like those rays of light, hope was beginning to sneak through the cracks in the darkness my life had become. Hope tastes like warm bread, but it's as fragile as an eggshell. I learned that in May, when the plan Jason and I so carefully crafted nearly fell apart by my own slip. After Needlepoint Group, as I pulled things out of my purse at home, a business card with Jason's office number fluttered to the floor. Amelia, always sharp-eyed, scooped it up with a sly smile before I could grab it. "A notary. Having some trouble with your paperwork. Miss Fletcher Fletcher?" she asked, her eyes narrow and sparkling with malice. "I spun a story about updating my will, but the damage was done. That night, I overheard Ryan on the phone in his office, his voice a tense hiss. Check everything on this notary. Yes, absolute discretion. I need to know if my mother-in-law is up to something." The squeeze tightened. Over the next few days, my single weekly escape to Needlepoint was cancelled, supposedly for the safety of an elderly woman like you. Amelia suggested I join in Brooke's latest project, videos on multi-generational living, where I'd play the adorable grandma being doted on by her successful daughter. "It'll be great for our marketing partnerships with senior brands," Brooke explained, adjusting the lights in my back room for the first shoot. "Just smile and tell everyone how happy you are to live with us, okay?" Resisting openly would mean causing a scene, so I practiced a mechanical smile while they dressed me in a baby pink wool cardigan, something I never would have picked. "Perfect for the algorithm," muttered the hired photographer. The real betrayal came the week of Brooke's wedding anniversary. Sandwiched between expensive flower arrangements and plans for another lavish party, Ryan entered my room with an official-looking document. "Just a formality, Miss Fletcher. The bank needs this to renew the home insurance," he said, handing me a gold pen emblazoned with his investment firm's logo. Years of working in schools taught me to read fine print. Discreetly, I skimmed the legalese and spotted it. A power of attorney, supposedly letting me have someone manage things on my behalf. It was twisted backwards. In reality, it would give him full control of my assets. "I need my glasses to look this over," I stalled, hiding my trembling hands under the comforter. Ryan left, impatient, and in those precious minutes, I snapped photos of the paperwork with the basic cell phone. When he returned, I signed only the receipt for delivery, feigning back pains and promising to review the rest later. His eyes flashed irritation, but he managed a polite tone. "Of course, I'll leave it with you. Tomorrow we'll go to the notary's office." That night, I managed to send the photos to Jason through Ruth, who just happened to drop by with a cake. Her visit, usually forbidden, was allowed only because a prominent lifestyle blogger was present, taking photos for a feature about Brooke's big event. "They're trying to get a fraudulent power of attorney," Jason warned over the phone, using Ruth's cell on the sidewalk outside. "Don't sign a thing and think of an excuse not to go to the notary's office." The next morning, the kitchen buzzed with preparations for a fancy lunch, when suddenly my old piano came up in conversation, the same one they'd hidden away in storage. "We need to get rid of that big old thing," Amelia said. "Takes up too much space, and nobody plays it." "I've already listed it online," Ryan replied, biting into his toast. "An antiques dealer is coming tomorrow. Got a great price for it." A ringing filled my ears, drowning out their voices. That Essenfelder piano, bought with the insurance after my father passed, was more than an instrument to me. It was a keeper of memories, my refuge on rough days, the silent witness to my tears. Selling off my piano without my permission was like ripping a piece out of my history. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a house or possessions. I was fighting for my very self, for the right to preserve who I was beyond Brooke's mom, or a cute grandma, for social media followers. A bolt of clarity struck as I stared at my cooling cup of tea. "It's never too late," I whispered, remembering my own mother's words when life got tough. I got up from the table while no one noticed, everyone caught up in party prep, and locked myself in the bathroom. With trembling fingers, I dialed Jason's number on that basic cell phone. "We need to act now," I whispered. "They're selling my piano tomorrow." "Ms. Fletcher, I was expecting your call. I have news. I secured a court-issued property protection order. An officer can come by today to serve notice to your daughter and son-in-law." I took a deep breath, letting the cold air settle my nerves. "Go ahead, Jason, but I want to be there. I'm not hiding anymore." 3 hours later, as Brooke was filming another social media video, showing off the Thai orchid arrangements for the party, the doorbell rang. The housekeeper answered and let in a man in a modest suit with a briefcase in hand. The court officer walked straight into the living room, where Brooke, Ryan, and Amelia were discussing the buffet with the caterers. "Ms. Brooke Fletcher, Mr. Ryan Fletcher, I have a legal notice to deliver." Brooke's face went pale beneath her flawless makeup. Ryan tried to intervene, but the officer stayed firm. "This is a legal order preserving property in the name of Ms. Laura Fletcher, the rightful owner of this home." I stepped out from my spot in the hallway and entered the room. The cameras were still rolling, catching the exact moment my daughter looked at me, her face open with shock and betrayal. "Mom, what did you do?" she hissed. "I did what I had to, honey. This house has been mine since 1994. Bought with the money I earned, selling tamales so you could take English classes. It's all on record." Ryan snatched the document from the officer, scanning it so quickly I could see the panic dawning on his face, a look I'd never seen before. Without a word, he stepped out into the yard, frantically dialing his phone. Brooke dismissed the film, crew and caterers in a rush. The costly flowers stood untouched, silent witnesses to the crumbling of their pastel castle. Amelia retreated to her room, suddenly feeling under the weather. When we were finally alone, my daughter collapsed onto the sofa, her tears streaking her perfect makeup. Why didn't you ever tell me the house was yours? Why let us believe Dad left it to us? You never asked, Brooke. You just assumed that being your mother meant everything I owned would eventually be yours. I studied Brooke's face, the shape of her cheekbones, a blend of mine and her father's, but mostly marked by years of chasing some ideal image for thousands of strangers. For a fleeting second, I saw again the little girl who used to show me her school grades, who came running for a hug after piano lessons, who fell asleep with her head in my lap when her father passed away. What happens now? Are you gonna kick us out? She whispered, more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. No, Brooke, I'm not like you all, but things are going to change starting today. That very afternoon, Ruth arrived with Jason, and together they supervised as my piano was moved back into the living room. The first notes I played after months of forced silence were rough, but they were mine. The faded curtains of the back room were finally opened, welcoming in sunshine and fresh air. Ryan returned at dusk, subdued. His investors, he explained, were troubled by the unusual situation. The image of a perfect family, so painstakingly crafted for social media, was suddenly at risk. We can handle this as a family, not as adversaries, I suggested, tasting real dignity for the first time in months. Learning how to live in my own home again was like rediscovering the taste of fruit plucked from a tree, familiar and strange all at once. June came in with light rains and the announcement that Amelia was heading back to Atlanta. The weather here isn't good for me, she announced, but her eyes gave away the truth. With no fertile ground left for her schemes, she needed a new garden for her games. Ryan and Brooke stayed, but something fundamental had shifted in our family dynamic. The small back room became my embroidery studio, and my bed was returned to the room that had always been mine. Decisions now went through me, the rightful owner of a house that had sheltered 3 generations worth of hopes and disappointments. The first real challenge came when 2 of Brooke's main sponsors canceled their contracts after a clip of the court officer delivering the legal notice went viral. Brooke, sitting at the kitchen table with dark circles under her eyes, finally seemed vulnerable. I'm ruined, Mom. I built this image of the perfect family, and now everyone knows it was a lie. I poured us each a strong cup of coffee, the bitter aroma filling the silence between us. Maybe it's time to build something real, not just for the camera. Ryan, ever the pragmatist, suggested they buy an apartment in Midtown. For a fresh start, he said, not meeting my eyes. I could see the defeat in him had a bitter taste, a loss much deeper than just the house. It was about losing control over something he thought he had mastered. You don't have to go, I offered. You can stay as family, not as owners. For weeks, we negotiated terms for this new way of living. Every conversation felt like diffusing a bomb. Threads of resentment, old wounds, and crushed expectations requiring careful, delicate handling. I lost sleep, shedding quiet tears into my pillow. But I didn't budge on the essentials: my financial independence and my right to decide how I lived my own life. In July, I sold my topaz ring, the engagement gift I kept even after Anthony left, to buy rich soil and new planters. I replanted my African violets and portulacas in the small side garden that was now entirely mine. Each plant marked a piece of myself coming back to life, roots finding their place in damp earth. Jason, now a friend as well as a legal counsel, would drop by sometimes for coffee and bring updates from the outside world. He was the one who suggested, I offer embroidery classes at the neighborhood association. You've got skill and wisdom worth sharing, he said, admiring an embroidery of yellow poplars I'd just finished. The first class was on a rainy August afternoon. Only 3 women showed up, shy and unsure. I taught them the basics, rediscovering the teacher I'd been for decades. The next week brought 5, then 8. Soon we'd formed a regular group who called themselves the Queen's Stitchers. That small victory cost me 2 weeks of frosty silence from Brooke. You're putting yourself out there too much, Mom. What if someone brings up all that happened? But I stood my ground. The modest class fees, all mine, went into a bank account I'd opened on my own at a local branch. The young manager, respectful of my silver hair, walked me through every detail of the banking app on my new cell phone, bought with my own savings. In September, I faced my greatest test yet. Ryan proposed to buy me out of the house. A fair price, well above market value, he assured. sliding a sheet with staggering numbers across the kitchen table. The offer was tempting. The money would give me comfort for the rest of my life. All financial worries gone. Yet something inside me, maybe the same instinct that made me hold on to the deed all those years, sent off alarms. This house isn't for sale, Ryan. Not today, not ever. That answer cost me another week of tension. Doors slamming, long silences. But every morning, waking up in my own room to the scent of my plants drifting through the window, I knew I was doing the right thing. Dignity isn't something you can put a price tag on. Decisions change destinies the way the wind moves the leaves. In October, an unexpected proposal came from Brooke as we sat on the back porch, steam rising from our coffee cups, thinner than ever and with deep shadows beneath her eyes. After months trying to rebuild her digital career, she absent-mindedly flipped through a home design magazine. What if we turned the annex into a studio for beauty and wellness for older women? She asked, avoiding my eyes. I realized there's a whole market out there being ignored. Women like you, with experience and character, can't relate to the image I used to sell. Those hesitant, genuine words carried a veiled admission of guilt and an invitation to reconciliation. I saw my daughter, not the influencer with millions of followers, but the girl who always looked for my approval. A joint business? I asked, my voice trembling just a bit. Yes, 50-50. You bring experience and the space. I bring marketing know-how and brand connections. We could build something real, not a front. November came on the gentle breeze of late fall, and along with it, the renovation of the annex. Brooke sold jewelry to purchase beauty equipment. I sold my silver flatware, grandma's heirloom, to install accessibility ramps and repair the roof. Our shared sacrifices symbolize this new partnership, not built on power, but on mutual respect. Ryan, skeptical at first, surprised me by offering help with the business plan. You have a vision I never truly appreciated, he admitted, as we reviewed the financial projections together. We weren't friends, maybe we never would be, but there was a new respect rising from the ashes between us. In December, we opened Second Bloom, a wellness and beauty sanctuary for women over 50. On the invitation, a line I wrote, and Brooke honored, because wisdom is beautiful too. On opening morning, as I arranged fresh violets in the reception, I was surprised to see Ruth arrive with Jason and his fiancée Clara in tow. The young notary, who'd hesitated for months to propose to the art teacher for fear of seeming too aspirational for his salary, had finally taken the leap. You inspired me, Miss Fletcher, he confessed. Watching you stand up for your dignity, I realized value isn't measured by a bank account. The first clients arrived, women with smile lines, silver hair, and stories written in their eyes. Women who, like me, had quietly fought their own battles against being overlooked. Each was welcomed with a cup of herbal tea served in vintage porcelain, those same cups Brooke had once stored away as too old-fashioned. By afternoon, as our first day wound down, I sat at the piano in the living room. Brooke approached, shy, holding out a sheet of music. The Way We Were, the same song that played on the radio when all of this began. I found this while going through the storage room. Thought you might want it back. I played the opening chords, feeling the piano respond like an old friend. Brooke sat beside me on the bench, just as she used to as a little girl. We didn't exchange words. None were needed. The melody filled the space between us, weaving a reconciliation deeper than any spoken apology. January arrived again, closing the circle. A year after the ordeal began, I baked our family's traditional orange pound. Cake in the old cast iron pan. The citrus aroma drifted up the stairs while the ceiling fan sent a gentle breeze rustling the framed deed hanging in the living room, not as a provocation but as a reminder of our journey. Now, at 72, I look back and see not only what I lost, but even more, what I gained. Dignity isn't the absence of struggle, but the courage to stand for who we are, even when those across the table share our blood. I learned that true love doesn't erase you, that age isn't irrelevance, and that our greatest treasures aren't things, but moments like this one. When I share my story with you, if the scent of orange cake calls up memories for you too, pull up a chair, cradle your mug in your hands, and stay for a little while longer, because our stories, however personal, hold universal truths about belonging, about identity, and about the transformative power of everyday courage. And so ends the story of Laura, a woman who reminds us it's never too late to claim our voice. Dignity has no expiration date, and sometimes the most important battles are fought not in courtrooms, but at home, with those who were meant to be our safe harbor. Thank you for following another story here on the channel. If this journey touched your heart, don't forget to give it a like so more people can find it too. Tell us in the comments us where you're watching from. Does your city have stories like this? We'd love to hear from you. If you're not subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, we share new stories that explore the complexities of human relationships, especially those featuring our seasoned women, whose voices so often go unheard. See you soon.